Let's continue with our work to create as well as edit lines and polygons. So remember we've been making some of our lines and polygons. So let's make we've been making lines. Let's make a polygon. So the main thing we do is we're gonna build the polygon out of the series of lines, which so far are just contacts that surround it. And so this is actually kind of elegant, but it's a little tricky to do. So the main thing you want to do is you use the editor. You make sure your editor is going. Save edits and start editing if you haven't. Get this little arrow, and we're gonna basically shift select. So you hold the keyboard, the shift button, and you click on the item, the polygons that bound it. So you see like that little piece of Madeira there has two lines that bound it. And so then we come up here to the right to the advanced editing toolbar, and we click on this thing that looks like a little wrench, and it says construct polygons. And so Dr. DiMaggio already has this set up for us really beautifully. And so we just click on template, and we say, okay, that's a YXM. That's the Madeira diorite. So if I say okay, and you'll see the cluster tolerance is kind of how far apart do the little lines have to be so that we can accept them as a single polygon. And this is something we may have to mess around with to make larger if we're not creating the polygon. But let's hope this one will work. So we say okay, boom, and it made that little polygon. Now remember it's white, so maybe not that exciting in color. Let's do a few more. So let's try this one. These two are actually maybe problematic because they're single lines. So let's just try it, but it might not work. It could be a good example. So these are YXMs as well, right? So we say okay. No polygons were created. That's because it's a single line. So what you can do then is if you double click, and if you come up here to this little tool called the split tool, you just click on one of those vertexes, it splits there. So now, see, we just have the two sides. So if we want to do something simple, you can hold the mouse on, you grab them both. Now let's do the tool, YXM. Doesn't like it. Let's try to do it again and increase the tolerance. Go to 1 meter. Got it. So that's the kind of a little bit of annoying part of this. Sometimes it's a little bit inexplicable why it won't behave, but that's just what you want to try to do. So let's see. This one, there's the YXM. Okay, give us an error, so let's split. Let's click here, and now we should, let's just do one side. Yeah, we have two of them, so I'll shift select for both. Hit the construct polygons. Okay, doesn't like it, so maybe again our cluster tolerance is a little too fine, so let's say 1 meter. Got it. And we just keep going. So let's save again, save often. Let's try this piece of alluvium. So if I click now we need to make sure we can select from. So if I'm going to have to go back and forth. So what I'll do is I'll make the map border the only selectable layer. I'll grab the pieces of the map border, shift select. Now I'm going to hold the map down, hold the shift button down, and now I'm going to go to contacts and faults and say make this the only selectable layer. And now let's keep going. So that's a little tricky. I hope that won't be too annoying. But now, so you see, we've enclosed this polygon with these lines. So let's create it. But this one is alluvium. So let's just go for it. Doesn't quite like it. Let's try a different cluster tolerance. Got it. Okay, so one thing I've done is I've added a couple of contacts here on my drawing just to help me have boundaries for the polygons. So now when we go to make a polygon, I'm going to start over here just to show a couple of things, is we should really do the big ones first. So for example, this polygon here, that's, if we turn this back on, it's a big coverage of colluvium here, and then it has these windows through it to the diorite. Now it turns out it actually is going to be better to draw, you have to plan ahead, but draw the big polygon first, or create it first, and then do the smaller ones, which will sit, they'll be drawn above it. And this will make things work a lot easier. The other trick I've done is I added this little contact here. It's kind of a cheat, but I was having a hard time making this entire big polygon draw or form. So if you have to, you can put a little boundary in, and then when we go, if I shift select the boundaries of this piece of colluvium, if I grab that one, I'll only draw this half. And now it's sort of inelegant, it's kind of a hack, but I can't figure out how to do this better, and I don't want to waste people's time too much. So if you have to do a trick like that, that's okay. There, we've got the QG. And now what we can do is if we click this guy and make sure there's two pieces, don't do it with a single one. If there is, break it. So that one now we draw as YXM. And maybe you have to increase your cluster tolerance just by a little bit. Let's go to 1 meter. There. So you see that way we draw the QG first and then the YXM on top. If you do it the other way, it'll cause a lot of problems, and I kind of learned that the hard way. There. So it's a little bit of a hack when you have to increase that cluster tolerance too much. You get some bad matches there, but sometimes that's the best you can do given the time. So let's keep going. And actually, it looks like this one here that I made is really supposed to be Pioneer, right? So it was a mistake. One thing you can do is if we open the attribute table, you can find that YDS and just change it right here to YP. Okay? And then if you push enter or move to another one, you see I changed it. So that's how to fix it without having to redraw it. Okay, so that was edit, that was right click on the map unit polys and select the open attribute table. Okay, so because now we're going to want this one. Got it. So one thing you can see is sometimes when we have these bad these gaps here, it's kind of untidy. So you could go into the map unit polys and make this the only selectable layer. And if you go and you zoom in up here, get the editor, click, you can double click on it and you can fix those. So that sloppiness comes from our sloppy the cluster tolerance. And so the other thing you can do is if you right click, you can sometimes if you double click so you can see the vertices, then if you right click on the line, you can insert a vertex, and so we can pull that up, make that a little cleaner. Same thing over here, let's insert another vertex. So you don't have to go crazy here but you can do a little cleanup if it's bugging you. But I'm going to totally be understanding about the time commitment, so it doesn't have to be perfect. We get the point. So just but you see how to fix it. So let's go back, contacts and lines, make this the editable layer. Let's do this one. That is a YXM. And this is going to be a little piece of Pioneer. So it's still inelegant in the sense that there's one polygon on top of the other, but once we draw it, we see fine what's going on, and it just is how things are drawn. So this Now, as I said, I'm going to actually do this little cheat and just put a contact across there, because otherwise this alluvium is going to probably be too big and give me a lot of trouble. So it's inelegant, but you might just feel like you have to do that. And then later on, you can go in and delete it, but the polygons will be butted against each other. Remember, there's this polygon, which I've just selected, but if I make the contacts and faults the selectable layer, I could grab that contact and I can just, if I right click on it so you can see, I can just delete it. So remember, it was a trick that we used so we could make this into two polygons, and now it's gone, and that's okay. So that's what we'll do with this one up here, is just use it as a kind of a helper. So if you have trouble, same thing, just go in and let's add another one right here now that we know this trick, and we'll make it, piece by piece. So okay, pick the boundary and now switch to the contacts and lines. There, so hopefully that'll make just that little guy as a QA. Still need the cluster tolerance. Doesn't want to make it. So sometimes when things are starting to misbehave, a good tip is to stop editing and even just quit Arc for a moment. And so see here how we stopped editing and we saved in the editor, but the main program wants us to save as well. So we say yes, and then let's go back, start it again. Okay, so I opened it back up, so we just do start editing, click on contacts and faults. We get the same error about the contours being in a different coordinate system. So now let's try to select everything. We have to be careful we don't select any polygons. So should be able to make that polygon. Let's go in here. Just start with the cluster tolerance of 1. 10. Now I'm getting impatient. I got it. So I don't know exactly what the problem was there. And that's just how things go sometimes. See, that gap right there is probably one of the things that's given us some trouble. When we have the cluster tolerance and we're using the map boundary, there's a tiny gap, which is problematic. Get those vertices moved around. Now it's starting to look a little better. there. So remember, every time you do something significant, save those edits. Otherwise, you're just going to be so depressed when you lose your work. And it happens to me every now and then, and so frustrated by it. So again, we have to probably draw just a split there to get this thing to finish more easily, and then we'll delete that one. Oh, there's the problem down there. So then remember, we can get rid of this one. Let's do this. Actually, remember that we have to be careful. This can't be a single line, has to be 2 lines. Now we can make the QG on top of that. Now we're getting somewhere. Looks like we still can do a little editing to clean up. Looks like this gap here is a little bit annoying. There, after something heavy, editing like that, make sure you save it. So that polygon there would be nice to get to that pioneer. I don't know if I'm going to be able to grab it. One thing you can do is if temporarily pull the other one out and out of the way so you can kind of reach underneath it. There, now we're getting there. Let's remember, keep saving. Don't stop saving. Okay, let's keep going. It's starting to shape up though. I kind of like how this map is looking. So what's in that big polygon? That's a bunch of dripping springs. So again, I think don't be shy about popping a couple of helpers in here. Split these guys because it looks like it's wanting to go around the other polygon we just created. So let's break both of those just to make it not confusing. So let's just do that fault where we're here. So this fault, I'm showing it as a left lateral strike slip fault that's accurately located. So I'm just going to click right like that. And then we'll fix this labeling. We got thumbs up there, but that's all we need to do for the fault. Let's go back to a piece of mescal in there. See how it goes a lot smoother, and now when with that low cluster tolerance, the polygons are looking good as well. So we want to keep trying to draw accurately, and with these little strategies breaking the polygons, I think we won't have to fight with that cluster tolerance problem as much. All right, let's make sure to save it. Bookmarks. So then you can put the base maps on. Looks really nice when the base maps are there. Looks like we still need one more. Looks like we're missing inside here the diorite. So let's fix that, and then hopefully we'll be done. There we go, fix that one. Save the edits. Zoom out a little bit. Alright, looking good. So I made my little piece of the map. You have to do the whole thing, but you see how to do it. Just keep saving, take some breaks, try to find these little tips and tricks to keep your efficiency up. I think breaking those polygons with those helper contacts is really a keen strategy.